Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the first in our college preparation series sessions today on helping students build a balanced college list. My name is Samantha Jackson, and I'm a college and career readiness consultant at Ken ISD, and I'm so excited to have you here today and to share this information with you. So first, a quick introduction for those of you joining the asynchronous session. I want you to just take a second to reflect on how you decided where you were applying for college. During our live session, a lot of people shared things like how close it was to them or how far it was, the affordability, somewhere that their parents or family or friends or teachers either went or told them to go, a lot of kind of external influences, things like that. Today, we're going to be talking about how to help your students decide what might be the best fit college for them. So we're going to start off by talking about the role of college lists. So when we're talking about college lists, we're talking about their academic admissibility. So is it a strong match for them? One of the first factors that students consider when building their college list is whether or not they can get in. Admissions rates and GPA ranges play a big part in this. But in addition to their academic admissibility, we also need to talk about their personal fit. Their fit is just as important. Students need to attend a school where they feel they belong, both socially and personally. Many students won't know the difference between different types of institutions or degree programs, so encourage students to explore schools of different types through campus and admissions visits. This might be things like considering public and private, community colleges versus vocational colleges. What exactly is a liberal arts college? Are they interested in going to a specific interest college, like an arts school, a STEM school, a single sex school, something that's religiously affiliated? And what do all of those different things mean for them? What are kind of those requirements or the things that set those schools apart? We also want to make sure they understand specialized mission, HBCUs, Hispanic serving institutions. Some other things they might want to consider would be things like their housing options and requirements. Does that school require them to live on campus all 4 years? Do they have the opportunity to live in an off-campus apartment or a house? And what do those requirements look like? And then also considering those things like activities, academic requirements. So does it require a thesis, an internship, etc.? What does the surrounding area look like? Do they want to be somewhere that's really close to the city, or do they want to be somewhere that's out in the middle of nowhere? And what does that really mean for them? What does transportation look like to the school and around the school? Weather. So, a lot of times we think of kind of the extremes, but, making sure that they're considering if it's a place that they want to be year round. And realizing that a dream school might not always be the right fit. A lot of times these dream schools might be, places that, again, parents, families, friends have attended. It might be somewhere that they just always, imagined going because they like their sports team, or it's just a school that they've heard of a lot. But I've heard students who tell me things like, I want to go to Michigan State and I want to major in aviation. Well, those two things don't really go together. Michigan State doesn't have aviation majors. So even though it might be their dream school, again, maybe someone they know went there, they've always dreamt of going there. It's not necessarily going to be the right fit for them based on their own wants and needs. And so that match primarily focuses on the numbers. So GPA, test scores, will they get in? Whereas fit is kind of focused on all of those other things. It's also really important that students don't undermatch, which is when a student enrolls at an institution that's less selective than that which they could attend. A lot of times this happens for students from marginalized backgrounds who might have a perception that college is too expensive. They have a lack of financial resources, maybe some low expectations of themselves, a lack of guidance, or just minimal exposure to different colleges. But what we know is that completion rates are actually lower for students who significantly undermatch. So if you have a student who is capable of getting into an Ivy League school and they go to a school with open enrollment, that might not be a great fit for them, again, because um, of the possibility of it not being rigorous enough. They might get bored. And so completion rates are actually lower for those students. For some low-income students, a selective institution may actually be more affordable. Again, I know a lot of times students hear something is selective or it's a private school and they automatically think that it's expensive. And while the sticker price looks really expensive, a lot of times there is a lot more aid available to them. Students who are most likely to undermatch are low-income students, first-gen students, rural students, and other students from marginalized backgrounds. We also know when it comes to dream schools that many students gravitate towards highly selective institutions simply because they perceive them as prestigious or better. But again, we want to make sure that students are selecting the school that is the best fit for them and meets all of their different needs. And we also know that they need to have a balanced list, making sure that um, they have a range of institutions that will meet their needs. And knowing that if we only focus on those dream schools or the most prestigious schools, students might face rejection, financial strain, or a social mismatch. All right, when we're talking about making their list, most students should aim to apply to 3 or more institutions. They should aim to apply to a safety school where admission is likely, a target or match school where they match and fit in that school, and then a reach school, which is ambitious but realistic. So the first is a match school. So a match school is one where the student's academic credentials, so again, those scores, GPA, the numbers, fall within the institution's average range for accepted students. So they have a strong chance of admission. Some key factors for their match school will be the GPA, SAT or ACT scores, and the course rigor. But again, we also need to consider their fits. So thinking about their social and personal, making sure that it has the campus culture that fits them. It has the extracurriculars they're interested in, if they're interested in the student body diversity, and thinking about different support systems they offer in terms of tutoring, mental health services, etc. An example of a strong match for a student would be a student with a 3.7 GPA who has strong extracurriculars and a solid SAT score who could consider a school with an average GPA range of 3.5 to 3.9. Socially, this student values a tight-knit community and smaller class sizes, which this school offers. Next, we have a reach school. A reach school is one where a student's academic credentials are below the school's average for accepted students, but they're still within the realm of possibility. These schools are considered a stretch, but they offer valuable experiences if accepted. So this is not at all saying that this is a student with a 1.5 GPA with no extracurriculars, nothing outside of school who's like applying to an Ivy League. This is still within the realm of possibility. Key factors for their REACH school. Academically, the student's GPA or test scores might fall just below that school's average range. And then thinking about financial considerations, will the family be able to afford this school and does it offer sufficient financial aid, especially if they don't meet that merit-based aid? So this might be something like a student with a 3.8 GPA who's considering an Ivy League school where the average admitted GPA is around 4.0. These schools are a stretch academically, but the student has strong extracurriculars, letters of recommendation, and a clear personal story that helps set them apart and make admission a little more likely. And then the final one is the safety school. So a safety school is one where the student is almost guaranteed admission based on their academic record. It is also a school that the student would be happy to attend. So we hear a lot of times students will say, oh, if I don't get in here, I'm just going to go here. I'm just going to go to a community college or whatever their kind of backup plan is. But we want to make sure that whatever their safety school is a place that they would also be happy to attend. So key factors for the safety school include academic. The student's GPA and test scores are above the school's average for admitted students. and financial considerations where the school is affordable and offers strong financial aid options. An example of this would be a student with a 3.4 GPA applying to a state university with an acceptance rate of 85%, where the average admitted GPA is around 3.0. This is a pretty safe bet for admission. And speaking about those safety schools, a couple of years ago, several of our state institutions came together to create the Michigan Assured Admissions Pact. And so this pact pulls together 11 institutions that have said if a student has at least a 3.0 GPA, then they will automatically be admitted to these institutions. And so these include Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Ferris State, Grand Valley, Lake Superior State, University of Michigan, Dearborn and Flint, Northern Michigan, Oakland University, Saginaw Valley, and Wayne State. Some of these schools do still have programs that students will have to test into or apply to. So for example, I believe Saginaw Valley has their nursing program that does still have competitive admission. So they will be admitted to the school because of their GPA, but they might still have to apply for those kind of specialized programs if they require a secondary admission. But this is just a really, really great thing for your students to know that as long as they have a 3.0 GPA, they are already guaranteed to get into these 11 schools across the state of Michigan. All right, I'm going to take a quick pause here. Again, for those who are on our asynchronous session, this is your place to get your sketches for attending today. So please scan the QR code and then the sketch code for today's session, which is the September 11th session, is 119. So I'll leave this up here for just a moment for you to scan and put in that code. All right, continuing on. As we help our students try to create this balanced list, we want to utilize data to help them make those informed decisions. So several places and sources of this data. The first is college websites. Each college's admissions page generally will provide valuable information on average GPAs, test scores, and specific admissions requirements. The College Board's College Search tool allows students and counselors to filter schools based on various criteria, such as size, location, and acceptance rate. Using your EDP tools, so whether you use Naviance, Xello, SchoolLinks, whatever system you use, they should all pretty much have a college search tool. And so using these school-based tools to track how students from your high school have applied to and been admitted to specific colleges if you're using that information. And then the common data set. This provides official standardized data on admissions, financial aid, and student life. There are, of course, many, many, many other tools out there similar to the College Board. There's College Raptor, there's Niche, many others, Big Future, that also provide those college search tools where students can go in and select things like the major that they're interested in, the type of locations, do they want to be in a city or a suburb or rural, all of those different types of factors that they might be interested in. If they know, kind of size of the school that they want to attend, they can select all of that information. So when looking at this data, we want to look at the selectivity. So the acceptance rates, a low acceptance rate, like less than 10% signals a highly competitive school, whereas a high acceptance rate, like something over 60%, is often considered less selective. And so this means that even if your student is a 4.0 student with a great SAT, if they have a really low acceptance rate, below 10%, it's still not a guarantee that they will get into that school. So just important for them to keep in mind. And then, of course, looking at the academic fit and personal fit. So again, comparing their GPA and test scores, and then considering all of those other factors about campus culture and student life. All right, so now we've come to our first scenario. So below is a sample profile for a student named Jane. So what I would like you to spend the next few minutes doing is creating a list of one match, one reach, and one safety school for Jane. These can be anywhere you would like. So Jane's profile, Jane has a 3.7 GPA. She has a 1350 on her SAT. Her interests are environmental studies, a small to mid-sized campus, strong community. She has moderate financial aid needs, and she would generally like to be within the Great Lakes region, and prefers suburban or college town or small town, so nothing in a big city. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take the next few minutes to come up with a list of one match, one reach, and one safety school for Jane. I hope you've taken some time to create a list for Jane. During our live session, lots and lots of different options, right? Environmental studies is a pretty typical major at most campuses. So again, we need to think about some of those other fit pieces. So the small to mid-sized campus, the strong community, the region, suburban, small town kind of vibe. So again, lots of great options shared during our live session. So places like Grand Valley, maybe Kalamazoo College as a reach school, Western Michigan as a safety school. Calvin College has a strong environmental studies program and also offers great financial aid for this GPA and SAT score. Northern Michigan University could be a great fit. Thinking even outside of Michigan, maybe University of Wisconsin Green Bay as a safety school. Another great match school could be Lake Forest College. So again, we're looking at private and public and realizing that some of these private schools do offer great financial aid, particularly for this GPA and SAT score, that could make them as affordable as some of the public schools. All right, so then when we're talking about financial fit, so three kind of big buckets for financial aid. The first is grants and scholarship, which is free money that doesn't need to be repaid. Loans is money that must be repaid with interest usually. And then work, study, or jobs on campus to help pay for living expenses. Most colleges have a net price calculator on their website, which is a tool that families can use to help estimate the total cost of attendance, including their tuition, fees, room and board, and how much financial aid the student might receive. It's important that students include schools on their list that are affordable schools. And so making sure that their list includes schools with generous financial aid offerings or lower tuition costs. And also considering financial fit, a safety school might not only be a safe bet academically, but also financially. So if things don't work out for their dream school, their match school that they are planning on, making sure that their safety school is also a good fit financially. Part two of our scenario, given the same student profile, so again, we have Jane with a 3.7 GPA, interested in environmental science, small to mid-sized institution. Given that same profile, review the estimated cost of attendance for one of the colleges on your list. Discuss how to determine whether the school's financial aid package would make the school affordable. So go ahead and pause here and take a few minutes to research one of the schools that you selected a little bit more and see if the financial aid package would make that school affordable. So it is important to note that for our public institutions, there's going to be a difference for in-state versus out-of-state cost. So if Jane lives in Michigan and tries to go to a public school outside of Michigan, unless they have some type of reciprocity agreement, it's going to cost a little bit more than the in-state tuition. It's also important to remember that with the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, that only applies to schools in Michigan, but it does apply to community college, private institutions, and public institutions. It's of course hard to determine if there's any kind of special aid that the student might qualify for, but at least looking at their website, you should get a sense of what the merit-based aid looks like, and maybe even being able to figure out a little bit of their need-based aid to see if the school would be affordable for them. All right, when it comes to supporting students as they're coming up with their college lists, it's important to build strong relationships as you've already been doing. So helping students identify what their personal goals are. So identifying their values in terms of academics, social, extracurricular activities, support systems, and location. I know in our live session, we talked about how a lot of students feel pressured to go somewhere because a lot of their friends are going there, or it seems like everyone in their school is going there. But again, we know that students are going to persist and be most successful in college if they're going to a place that aligns with all of their personal goals and values. So by better understanding beyond just the student's intended major, but really what they're looking for in a school community, we can help guide them to better options. And be prepared to have difficult conversations. Sometimes a student's dream school may not be the best fit, whether that's an academic fit or even just a personal fit. So be prepared to guide them through understanding their options while being sensitive to their aspirations and family expectations. Some different strategies we talked about. I know, it would be great if we could meet one-on-one with every single student, but I also realize that's not the reality for a lot of us. And so some different ideas to, try to get this information out and to help larger groups of students. If you can do that one-on-one and have like a student and supporter or family meeting, that is absolutely a great option. Again, that can help with tempering some of those family expectations and just understanding those family expectations, but also just really getting to understand what it is that that specific student is looking for. Tying this into your EDP. So of course, the point of the educational development plan is that we are helping them create a plan for their future. And so, not only understanding what careers they're interested in, but how that ties to specific majors and specific colleges. And then of course, also utilizing your EDP tool for college search as well. Hosting a current student panel. So if you have students that have graduated in the last 1 to 4 years that are currently in college, have a variety of them come back from different schools to talk about what it's like, talk about what they wish they had done differently or what they liked that they did during their college search process. What are the things that are actually most important to them once they're on campus? That may be different than what they thought would be important. Pulling together a common colleges list. So if you have a lot of students that go to certain schools or are interested in certain schools every year, just pull together that list and have it ready for them. Maybe you include some of those admission statistics, maybe from your own school specifically, what those stats looked like to get into that school. And then finally, again, if you can't host one-on-one, then hosting small groups. So you at least can still get some face time with individual students. And hopefully they'll be a little bit more likely to ask questions and to talk than if they're in a full assembly worth of students. All right, here I just have a list of some of those additional student resources. So like I mentioned earlier, using their EDP tool, using the College Board website, but just some additional ones here: Appley, College Raptor, Big Future, Peterson's, Princeton Review, Loper. They all work very similarly. Again, students can select things from their, academically what they're looking for, but then also some of those personal fit things as well. So the size of the institution, some of them you let them select housing requirements. They let them select if there's sports, things like that. So utilizing those to help them narrow down their list. Some additional tools and resources for counselors, online tools using the College Board, your EDP tool, and the Common Data Set that we've already talked about. And as far as financial aid resources, obviously the FAFSA website, CSS profile, and using those net price calculators. All right, that is all that I have for today. If you have any additional questions on this topic, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is samanthajackson@kentisd.org, and I hope you're able to join us for our next session.